On November 14, 1974, Ruth Alder signed in for her night shift at Briarcliff State Hospital in Montpelier, Vermont. She checked the medication log for Ward 7, noted the census of 14 patients, and began her rounds at 11:15 p.m. At 6:47 a.m., she called the front desk to report that Ward 7 was empty. Not a single patient remained. Beds made, personal effects gone. No discharge papers, no transfer orders, no ambulance logs. The state health department closed its inquiry in 9 days, concluding that a clerical consolidation had relocated patients to other facilities. But they never explained why none of those facilities had records of receiving anyone, or why Ruth Alder resigned 3 days later and moved to California without forwarding address, or why the census log she signed that night listed 14 names that didn't appear in any Vermont hospital database before or since. Catherine Morse had spent 11 years as a nurse before she became a journalist. She'd worked psychiatric wards in Boston, knew the smell of industrial disinfectant mixed with something older, knew the particular silence of locked facilities after midnight. When a manila envelope arrived at the Burlington Free Press in March 1975, addressed only to medical reporter, her editor dropped it on her desk without comment. Inside, a photocopy of a census log dated November 14, 1974, listing 14 patient names in a single typed sentence. Ask what happened to Ward 7. Catherine turned the page over. On the back, someone had written in pencil, Ruth Alder, Bakersfield. She made the call that afternoon.
I can't help you, Mrs. Alder. I'm not asking you to help me. I'm asking you to tell me why you left Vermont 4 months ago without telling anyone where you went.
The line went dead. Catherine looked at the census log again. 14 names. 14 people who apparently never existed. Briarcliff State Hospital sat on 47 acres of former farmland, 12 miles outside Montpelier. Built in 1921 to house Vermont's mentally deficient, it had expanded 3 times and now held capacity for 460 patients across 6 wards. Ward 7 occupied the northeast corner of Building C, a brick structure added in 1952. Catherine parked in the visitor lot on a Tuesday morning and walked through the main entrance like she belonged there.
Can I help you?
I'm here to see Dr. Whitfield. Catherine Morse, Burlington Free Press.
Do you have an appointment?
I called last week.
She hadn't, but the receptionist checked the paper calendar, frowned, and picked up the phone. 3 minutes later, Catherine was being escorted down a corridor that smelled exactly the way she remembered. Disinfectant. Something older underneath. Dr. Harold Whitfield had directed Briarcliff for 19 years. He was a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and the practiced calm of someone who spent his days managing other people's crises. His office smelled like pipe tobacco and old paper. Miss Morse, the Free Press, is it? I'm not sure what brings you out here.
I'm writing a piece on psychiatric care in Vermont. General interest. I was hoping you could walk me through how Briarcliff operates. We're a state facility. We operate like any state facility. I understand you had some administrative changes last November. A consolidation of some kind?
Whitfield's expression didn't change, but his hand stopped moving toward the pipe on his desk. I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Ward 7. I was told there was a consolidation.
Miss Morse, I have 400 patients under my care. I don't track every bed assignment personally. If you have specific questions, I'd suggest you contact the state health department.
I did. They told me to contact you.
Catherine spent 2 hours in the Montpelier Public Library that afternoon, pulling every newspaper article mentioning Briarcliff from the past 5 years, routine coverage, budget hearings, an expansion proposal in 1972, a small fire in the laundry facility, quickly contained, nothing about Ward 7, nothing about patient transfers, nothing about Ruth Alder. She found one item of interest, a February 1974 announcement that Briarcliff had contracted with Northeast Medical Services for supplementary patient care coordination. She'd never heard of Northeast Medical Services. The library's business directory didn't list them. Neither did the phone book.
Finding what you need?
Do you have records of business incorporations, Vermont companies?
Secretary of State's office handles those. They're open until 4.
Catherine checked her watch. 3:17. She had time. Northeast Medical Services had been incorporated in Delaware in September 1973 and registered to do business in Vermont 3 weeks later. The registered agent was a law firm in Burlington. The sole officer listed was someone named Gerald Finch, with an address that turned out to be a post office box in Rutland. Catherine copied down every detail and drove back to Burlington that evening. Her editor, a man named Tom Paulson, who'd been running the paper since 1961, was still at his desk when she arrived.
You look like you found something.
I found a shell company, incorporated 3 months before 14 patients disappeared from a state hospital.
Disappeared.
That's the word I'm using until someone gives me a better one.
Catherine, state hospitals shuffle patients around all the time. Budget reasons, staffing, overcrowding.
Tom, these 14 people don't exist in any database. No transfer records, no discharge papers. The night nurse who was on duty moved to California and won't talk to me.
Paulson was quiet for a long moment.
What do you need?
Time. And maybe a lawyer on retainer.
The Rutland Post Office was a brick building on Merchants Row, wedged between a hardware store and a pharmacy. Catherine arrived at 9 a.m. on Thursday and waited in line behind a woman mailing a package to her son in Ohio.
Help you?
I'm trying to reach someone who has a box here. Box 447. Gerald Finch?
We don't give out information about box holders.
I understand. I was hoping you could tell me if the box is still active.
I can tell you it exists. That's all.
When was mail last picked up?
The clerk stared at her.
Lady, I don't track that. You want to leave a letter? I'll put it in the box. That's what I do.
Catherine left a letter. She also spent an hour in her car across the street, watching the post office entrance. No one came. Ruth Alder's forwarding address in Bakersfield led to a boarding house on Chester Avenue. Catherine couldn't afford to fly, so she took 3 days and drove, stopping in motels that charged $8 a night and smelled like mildew. She arrived on a Sunday afternoon. The landlady was a woman in her 60s with curlers in her hair.
Ruth? She moved out.
When?
Week ago. Maybe 2. Didn't give notice. Just left money on the dresser and was gone when I came to collect the sheets.
Did she say where she was going?
Didn't say anything. Didn't say much the whole time she was here. Kept to herself, worked nights somewhere. I don't pry into people's business.
Did anyone come to see her before she left?
The landlady paused.
There was a man, week before she left. Drove a dark car, stayed maybe 20 minutes. She was different after that. Jumpy. I figured it was an ex-husband or something.
Can you describe him?
Average. Nothing special. Wore a suit. That's all I remember.
Catherine drove back to Vermont with nothing but questions. Ruth Alder had been found and lost again. Someone had visited her, and she'd run. Catherine spent the next 2 weeks making phone calls. She called every hospital in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts, asking about patient transfers from Briarcliff in November 1974. She called the state health department 4 times and was transferred to 3 different offices before being told that patient records were confidential. She called the law firm in Burlington that served as registered agent for Northeast Medical Services. They declined to comment on client matters. On the 14th day, she received a phone call.
Miss Morse?
Speaking.
I understand you've been asking about Ward 7.
Who is this?
Someone who worked there. I can't talk on the phone. There's a diner in Barry, off Route 14. Mel's. I'll be there tomorrow at noon.
The line went dead before Catherine could respond. Mel's Diner was a converted railroad car that had been serving coffee and eggs since 1946. Catherine arrived at 11:30 and took a booth near the back where she could see the door. The lunch crowd was thin. A few truckers at the counter, a woman with 2 children in the booth nearest the register. At 12:15, A man in his 50s entered. He wore a brown jacket and had the look of someone who hadn't slept well in months. He scanned the room, spotted Catherine, and slid into the booth across from her.
You called me.
My name's Carl. I was an orderly at Briarcliff. Worked there 6 years.
Worked. Past tense.
They let me go in December. Budget cuts, they said. But I know why.
Why?
Carl looked toward the door, then back at Catherine.
Because I asked what happened to Ward 7. Same as you. Ward 7 was special. That's what they told us when they opened it. Special care unit. Patients who needed extra attention.
What kind of patients?
Long-term. People who'd been at Briarcliff for years. Some of them decades. No family, no visitors, no one checking on them. The state paid their keep.
And what happened last November?
I came in for my shift on the 15th, day after. Ward 7 was sealed. They said it was being renovated. But I'd walked that hall the day before. Nothing needed renovating.
Did you see any of the patients being moved?
That's the thing. I worked the 14th, evening shift. Patients were all there when I left at 11. Ruth Alder was coming on. Everything was normal.
And the next morning?
Gone. All of them. Beds made like no one had ever been in them.
Catherine wrote in her notebook. 14 patients. 8 hours. No witnesses.
You said you asked questions. What did you find out?
Nothing official. But I talked to people. Other orderlies, a couple nurses. There was a van.
What kind of van?
White. No markings. Someone saw it at the loading dock around 2 in the morning. Night of the 14th.
Who saw it?
Maintenance guy named Pete Howell. He was fixing a boiler in Building A. Said he saw the van, saw people being loaded into it. Figured it was some kind of emergency transfer.
Can I talk to him?
Pete died in January. Car accident. Single vehicle. Went off the road coming home from work.
Where exactly?
Route 2, near the hospital. They said he fell asleep at the wheel.
Did he have family?
Wife, 2 kids. She moved back to Maine after it happened.
Catherine drove to the accident site that afternoon. Route 2 curved along the Winooski River, narrow and unlit at night. The spot where Pete Howell's car had gone through the guardrail was marked by fresh lumber where repairs had been made. She parked on the shoulder and walked to the edge. Below, the river moved slowly over rocks. The drop was maybe 30 feet. She found the police report at the Montpelier station the next morning. Single vehicle accident. Time of death estimated between 1 and 3 a.m. No witnesses. Blood alcohol level 0.00. The investigating officer had noted, no mechanical failure evident, and road conditions clear. Cause of death, blunt force trauma consistent with vehicle impact. The case was closed within a week. Catherine read the report twice. A sober man with a wife and 2 children drives off a road he traveled every night. No ice, no mechanical problems, no other vehicles. She made a copy of the report and added it to her file. Pete Howell's widow had moved to Portland, Maine. Catherine found her listed in the phone book and called from a payphone outside the newspaper office. The conversation lasted 4 minutes.
I don't want to talk about Pete.
Mrs. Howell, I'm investigating some irregularities at Briarcliff. Your husband may have seen something important.
My husband is dead, Miss Morse. Whatever he saw or didn't see doesn't matter anymore.
Did he ever mention a van? A white van at the loading dock?
Silence on the line. Then,
Pete came home upset the week before he died. Said he saw something he shouldn't have. I told him to keep his head down. He had a family to think about.
Did he say what he saw?
People being moved. In the middle of the night. He said they didn't look right.
What do you mean, didn't look right?
He said they weren't moving on their own. That's all he told me. A week later, he was dead.
the line went quiet.
Don't call here again.
Catherine returned to Briarcliff on a Friday morning with a different approach. She parked in the employee lot and waited until she saw someone in scrubs heading toward the building. A woman, late 40s, carrying a lunch bag.
Excuse me, I'm looking for someone who worked in Ward 7 before the renovation.
Ward 7's been closed for months.
I know. I'm trying to find out what happened to the patients.
The woman stopped walking. She looked at Catherine for a long moment.
You're that reporter, the one who's been calling.
My name is Catherine Morse.
I know who you are. People talk.
Then you know I'm trying to understand what happened.
What happened is none of your business. What happened is hospital administration and state oversight and things that are way above my pay grade. What happened is something I don't think about if I want to keep my job.
The woman walked away, but at the door, she paused.
Parking garage, level B, 6 o'clock.
She disappeared inside without looking back. The parking garage was a concrete structure behind the hospital, added in 1968 to accommodate growing staff. Level B was half empty at 6 o'clock, most of the day shift gone. Catherine waited near the stairwell, watching the ramp for headlights. At 6:15, a figure emerged from the shadows between two cars. The same nurse.
I shouldn't be here.
But you are.
Because someone should know. My name's Donna Hartley. I was head nurse in Ward 7 until October.
What happened in October?
They transferred me to Ward 3. Said Ward 7 was being restructured. New protocols, new staff. I wasn't given a reason.
Who gave the order?
Dr. Whitfield. But he was acting on instructions from someone else.
Who?
There was a man who started coming around in September. Wasn't a doctor. Wasn't state. He wore suits. He spent a lot of time in Whitfield's office with the door closed.
Do you know his name?
I heard Whitfield call him Finch.
Gerald Finch, from Northeast Medical Services.
I don't know what company. I just know he made Whitfield nervous. And after he started coming around, things changed.
Changed how?
They started reviewing patient files. The long-term cases. Patients without family, without anyone checking on them. They said it was for care optimization.
What does that mean?
I don't know. But every patient they reviewed ended up on a transfer list. And the transfers didn't go through normal channels. Normal transfers, you fill out paperwork. You call the receiving facility, you arrange transport. These transfers, the paperwork went straight to administration. No copies for the floor, no receiving facility listed.
Catherine felt something cold settle in her chest.
Donna, what happened to those patients?
I don't know. That's the truth. But I know 14 of them were in Ward 7 on November 14th. And I know they're not in Ward 7 anymore.
Catherine spent the weekend in the newspaper's archive, pulling every article she could find about Northeast Medical Services. She found nothing. The company had no public presence, no press coverage, no apparent business activity beyond its contract with Briarcliff. She called the Delaware Secretary of State's office on Monday morning.
Northeast Medical Services, Inc., Incorporated, September 12, 1973. Sole Officer Gerald Finch. Registered Agent, Wilmington Trust Company.
Is there a business address? A physical location?
Registered Agent address only. That's standard for Delaware corporations.
Any other officers? Directors?
Just the one name on file.
Catherine hung up and stared at her notes. A company with one officer, no office, and no apparent business except a contract with a state psychiatric hospital. She wrote a single question in the margin of her notebook. Where does the money go? The Vermont State Auditor's office occupied a cramped suite in the Pavilion building in Montpelier. Catherine arrived without an appointment and asked to see the contract between the state and Northeast Medical Services. Auditor's clerk. That would be a health department matter. We don't have those files here.
I've been to the health department. They sent me to you. Then there's been some confusion. We audit state expenditures. We don't maintain individual contracts, but you would have records of payments made to Northeast Medical Services.
The clerk hesitated. I can tell you that no payments have been made from state funds to any entity by that name.
None? None that appear in our records.
Catherine walked out into the February cold. A company contracted with a state hospital, but no state payments. Someone was paying Gerald Finch. It just wasn't Vermont. Catherine called Tom Paulson from a phone booth outside the Pavilion building.
Tom, I need to look at insurance records, Medicaid payments, private insurance, anything related to psychiatric care at Briarcliff.
That's federal. You'll need to go through the regional HEW office in Boston.
Can you make some calls, open some doors?
Catherine, what are you finding?
A shell company with no state contract payments, patients who disappeared without transfer records, a maintenance man who died in a car accident after he saw too much, and a name that keeps coming up, Gerald Finch.
Paulson was quiet for a moment.
I know someone at HEW. I'll make the call. But Catherine, if this is what it sounds like, you need to be careful. State hospitals, insurance fraud, missing patients. That's not small time.
I know.
Do you? Because people who dig into this kind of thing sometimes find that the thing digs back.
The HEW regional office in Boston occupied 3 floors of a federal building on Cambridge Street. Catherine took the bus down on a Thursday, arriving just after lunch. Tom's contact was a woman named Barbara Wells, a program analyst who specialized in Medicare and Medicaid fraud.
Your editor said you had questions about a Vermont facility.
Briarcliff State Hospital. I'm looking for payment records, specifically any payments made to or on behalf of patients who were transferred in November 1974.
That's a specific request.
I have specific concerns.
Barbara Wells looked at Catherine for a long moment, then reached for a file on her desk.
I pulled this before you arrived. Your editor was persuasive. Briarcliff has been receiving supplementary federal funds through a pilot program for long-term psychiatric care. The program is administered through a contractor.
Northeast Medical Services.
You've done your homework. Yes, Northeast Medical Services receives approximately $47,000 per month for care coordination and placement services.
For how many patients?
According to their quarterly reports, they're managing care for 63 patients across 4 facilities in New England.
And how many of those patients can you verify actually exist?
Barbara Wells didn't answer immediately. She closed the file on her desk and folded her hands on top of it.
Miss Morse, I'm a program analyst. I review numbers, not patients. What I can tell you is that the numbers don't add up.
How so?
Northeast Medical Services claims 63 patients. But when we cross-reference with facility census reports, we can only verify 41.
22 patients unaccounted for.
Discrepancies in census data aren't unusual. Patients transfer, patients die, paperwork lags behind reality. But 22 is a significant number.
And you're still paying them for 63.
The payments are contractual. Until someone flags a formal audit, the money keeps flowing.
I'm flagging it. Right now. Consider this a formal complaint.
Barbara Wells pulled a form from her drawer and slid it across the desk.
Fill this out. Include everything you have. I'll see that it reaches the right people.
How long will that take?
Honestly, months. Maybe longer. The wheels of government turn slowly, Miss Morse, especially when money is involved.
Catherine returned to Vermont with the HEW complaint filed and a photocopy of the discrepancy report in her bag. She found a message waiting at her apartment. No name, just a phone number and a time. 8 p.m. She called at exactly 8.
Miss Morse,
Who is this?
someone who's been watching your investigation with interest. You've been asking about Gerald Finch.
I've been asking about Ward 7. Finch's name keeps coming up.
Gerald Finch doesn't exist. That's a name on paper, nothing more. The man you're looking for goes by different names in different places.
Then who is he?
Someone who's been running this operation for years. Not just Briarcliff. Other facilities, other states. Patients without families, without advocates. People the system forgot.
What happens to them?
That's the question, isn't it? I'd suggest you look at Riverside Psychiatric in New Hampshire. Similar operation, started in 1971. Ask them about their census discrepancies.
The line went dead. Riverside Psychiatric Hospital was a private facility in Concord, New Hampshire, that had been operating since 1954. Catherine called their administrative office the next morning.
I'm sorry. We don't provide patient information to the press.
I'm not asking about specific patients. I'm asking about your contract with Northeast Medical Services.
A long pause.
I'll transfer you to our administrator.
Another pause. Then a different voice. Male. Older.
Miss Morse, I understand you're asking about a vendor relationship.
Northeast Medical Services. They have a contract with your facility, correct?
We've had various contractors over the years. I'd have to check our records.
Your records would show patients who may not exist. Approximately how many patients has Northeast helped you place since 1971?
The line was quiet for 5 seconds.
I think you should speak with our legal counsel. I'll have them contact you.
He hung up before Catherine could respond. She added Riverside to her file. 2 hospitals, 2 states, the same company, the same missing patients. Tom Paulson called Catherine into his office that afternoon. He closed the door behind her, which he almost never did.
I got a call this morning from the State Attorney General's office.
About what?
About you. About your investigation. They wanted to know what we were working on regarding Briarcliff.
What did you tell them?
That we're a newspaper and we investigate things. That's what we do.
He leaned back in his chair.
They suggested we might want to coordinate with their office, share information, work together.
That's not how this works.
No, it's not. But it tells me something. It tells me that someone with juice is getting nervous. Someone called the AG's office and asked them to make this call.
Whitfield?
Whitfield's a hospital administrator. He doesn't have that kind of pull. This came from higher up. Catherine, what have you found?
Insurance fraud, missing patients, at least 2 facilities in 2 states, and a man named Gerald Finch who doesn't exist.
Then keep digging. But watch your back.
Catherine drove to Concord, New Hampshire, the following week. Riverside Psychiatric was a 3-story brick building on the outskirts of town, newer than Briarcliff, but with the same institutional architecture. She didn't try the front entrance. Instead, she parked across the street and waited. At 3:30, she spotted what she was looking for. A worker in scrubs heading toward the parking lot, lighting a cigarette.
Excuse me, do you work here?
Who's asking?
My name's Catherine Morse. I'm a journalist from Vermont. I'm investigating some irregularities in patient care at facilities like this one.
The worker, a young man with tired eyes, took a long drag.
You're the one who called last week. They told us not to talk to you.
Who told you?
Administration. Said there was a reporter sniffing around, asking questions about things that weren't her business.
Is patient care not my business?
Lady, patient care isn't even our business. We do what we're told. Patients come, patients go. We don't ask where.
I'm looking for information about a company called Northeast Medical Services. They have a contract here.
Never heard of them.
They arrange patient transfers, placements.
Like I said, patients come, patients go. I don't see paperwork.
Have you noticed any patients disappearing? Long-term patients without family, suddenly transferred without explanation?
The worker finished his cigarette and ground it out on the pavement.
Look, lady, I've been here 2 years. In that time, I've seen maybe a dozen patients get transferred out in the middle of the night. No paperwork on the floor, no destination listed. We're told they went to specialized facilities. When we ask which ones, we're told it's confidential.
And nobody questions this?
I questioned it once. Got called into the administrator's office. He told me I was being unnecessarily curious. Said my job was to care for patients who were here, not to worry about patients who weren't. I got the message.
What was the message?
But if I wanted to keep working here, I'd keep my mouth shut.
Catherine returned to Vermont with another piece of the puzzle. 2 facilities, same pattern. Patients transferred in the middle of the night, no paperwork, no destination. She spent the next week making phone calls to psychiatric facilities across New England. Most refused to talk, but a few confirmed similar arrangements with Northeast Medical Services. A facility in Massachusetts, another in Rhode Island. The same contract, the same discrepancies. On March 15th, she received a letter at the newspaper office. No return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed list of 14 names. The Ward 7 patients. Below the names, a handwritten note. These people existed. Someone should remember them. Catherine spread the census log from the anonymous envelope beside the new list. The names matched. 14 people. Eleanor Marsh, Robert Kimball, Virginia Crane, Agnes Doyle. 13 others. People with names. People who had lived at Briarcliff for years, some for decades. People who had vanished on a November night and been erased from every official record. Catherine spent 3 days researching the 14 names. She found death certificates for 2 of them, dated before November 1974. Official records showed they had died at Briarcliff and been buried in the hospital cemetery, but the census log showed them present on the night of November 14th. Either the death certificates were false or the census log was, or both. She drove to the Briarcliff Cemetery on a cold Tuesday morning. It was a small plot at the edge of the property, marked with simple headstones. She found the graves of Eleanor Marsh and Robert Kimball. According to the stones, they had died in August and September 1974. But according to Ruth Alder's census log, they had been alive and present in Ward 7 2 months later. Catherine photographed both headstones. Then she knelt and looked more closely at the earth. The grass over both graves was thick and undisturbed. Whatever was buried beneath those stones had been there for much longer than a few months. The pieces were coming together. Catherine laid them out for Tom Paulson that evening, spreading documents across his desk like evidence at a trial.
Here's what I have. Northeast Medical Services, incorporated in 1973, receives federal funds for managing psychiatric patients at multiple facilities, but the patient counts don't match. They're billing for people who don't exist in any database.
Insurance fraud.
That's part of it, but it's not the whole picture. These patients aren't just numbers on paper. They were real people, long-term patients without families, without anyone checking on them, and they're gone.
Gone where?
That's what I can't prove yet. But look at this. 2 of the Ward 7 patients have death certificates dated before they supposedly disappeared. Their graves are in the hospital cemetery. The grass hasn't been disturbed in years.
You're saying they didn't die when the records say they did.
I'm saying someone falsified death certificates. Either these people died before November and the census log is fake, or they died after and the death certificates are fake. Either way, someone's lying about when and how these patients died.
Jesus.
The next morning, Catherine found a car parked outside her apartment building. A dark sedan, engine running. As she approached her own car, the sedan's door opened and a man stepped out. He was average height, average build, wearing a gray suit. The kind of man you'd forget 5 minutes after meeting him.
Miss Morse,
Do I know you?
you've been asking about me. I thought we should meet.
Catherine's hand tightened on her car keys.
Gerald Finch.
That's one of my names. I have several. You've been very thorough in your investigation. Impressive, actually. Most people give up after the first few dead ends.
I don't give up easily.
No, you don't. That's what concerns me. You've been making calls to federal agencies, filing complaints, asking questions at facilities across 4 states. You're creating problems for people who don't like problems.
Good.
Miss Morse, I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to offer you an opportunity. Walk away. Forget what you found. There's a job waiting for you at a newspaper in Chicago. Better pay, better opportunities. All you have to do is stop digging.
What happened to them? The patients. The 14 people in Ward 7.
They were transferred to more appropriate facilities.
What facilities? Where? I've called every psychiatric hospital in New England. None of them have records of receiving anyone from Briarcliff in November 1974.
The man's expression didn't change. He might have been discussing the weather.
Miss Morse, the patients in question were severely ill individuals with no family, no advocates, and no quality of life. The state was paying to keep them alive for no purpose. Northeast Medical Services provides a solution to that inefficiency.
You're telling me you killed them.
I'm telling you that resources are limited, and some patients are simply not viable. Their deaths were peaceful. their suffering ended. And the funds that would have been wasted on their care were redirected to patients who could actually benefit.
Catherine felt her stomach turn.
You're murdering people for insurance money.
I'm managing resources. There's a difference. Now, about that job in Chicago.
Catherine's hand was shaking. She willed it to stop.
I'm not going to Chicago. I'm going to publish everything I have. Every document, every name, every discrepancy. And then I'm going to watch you get arrested.
That would be unwise. The people I work for have resources you can't imagine. Judges, prosecutors, politicians. Your story will never see print. And if you persist, you'll end up like Pete Howell, a tragic accident on a dark road.
Is that a threat?
It's information. I'm giving you information so you can make an informed decision. Walk away. Take the job. Live a long, comfortable life. Or keep digging and discover how deep this goes. How many people are involved? How many would be exposed if your story came out? Those people will protect themselves, Miss Morse, at any cost.
The man got back into his sedan.
You have until Friday to decide. After that, the offer expires. And so might you.
Catherine didn't go to the office that day. She drove instead to the Burlington Police Department and asked to speak with a detective. She was directed to a man named Frank DeLuca, a veteran investigator with tired eyes and a desk covered in case files.
Miss Morse, I've heard your name around. You're the one investigating Briarcliff.
I need to report a threat, and possibly multiple homicides.
DeLuca's eyebrows rose slightly.
That's a significant claim.
I have documentation. Census records, death certificates that don't match, federal payment discrepancies, and this morning, a man who admitted to killing psychiatric patients for insurance money threatened my life if I didn't stop investigating.
Did he identify himself?
He said his name was Gerald Finch, but he also said that's just one of his names. He's connected to a company called Northeast Medical Services.
DeLuca was quiet for a moment. Then he reached for a notepad.
Start from the beginning. Tell me everything.
Catherine spent 3 hours with Detective DeLuca, walking through every piece of evidence. The anonymous envelope, the census log, the discrepancies in death certificates, the federal audit complaint, the threatening conversation that morning. DeLuca listened without interrupting, taking notes, occasionally asking for clarification.
This is substantial, but most of it's circumstantial. We can't arrest someone for having a company that bills for patients we can't verify.
What about the threat this morning?
Did he explicitly say he would kill you?
He said I'd end up like Pete Howell, a maintenance worker who died in a suspicious car accident after he saw something he shouldn't have.
That's implied, not explicit. A good lawyer would tear it apart.
So there's nothing you can do?
I didn't say that. I said we can't arrest anyone based on what you have. But I can open an investigation. I can request records from the state health department. I can talk to the medical examiner about those death certificates. And I can have a patrol car keep an eye on your building.
Will that be enough?
Honestly, I don't know. But it's a start.
Friday came. Catherine didn't take the job in Chicago. Instead, she sat in Tom Paulson's office with Detective DeLuca and laid out everything she had.
You want to publish this?
I want to publish what I can prove. Insurance fraud, falsified death certificates, federal payment discrepancies, missing patients at multiple facilities.
If you publish, you force their hand. They'll either run or try to silence you permanently.
If I don't publish, they keep killing people. There are patients at facilities across New England who could be next. People without families, without anyone checking on them. How many more have to disappear before someone does something?
She's right. This is what newspapers are supposed to do. Shine light on things that people want to keep hidden.
Then we coordinate. I'll contact my counterparts in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. We'll move simultaneously. You publish, we start making arrests.
Can you arrest Gerald Finch?
If we can find him. A man with multiple identities isn't easy to track.
I know where he'll be. He gave me until Friday. He's expecting an answer.
The story ran on Saturday, March 22nd, 1975. Front page of the Burlington Free Press. Missing patients, falsified records. Investigation reveals fraud at state psychiatric facilities. Catherine's byline. 3,000 words detailing everything she'd found. By noon, the story had been picked up by the Associated Press. By evening, it was national news. Gerald Finch, or whatever his real name was, didn't show up for the Friday meeting. Neither did he appear at any of the addresses Catherine had connected to Northeast Medical Services. The company's post office box in Rutland was emptied. The law firm in Burlington claimed attorney-client privilege and refused to provide any information about their client. But the story did what stories do. It created pressure. The Vermont Attorney General opened a formal investigation. The federal HEW office froze all payments to Northeast Medical Services. Subpoenas went out to Briarcliff, Riverside, and 4 other facilities. Dr. Whitfield resigned on Monday morning, citing personal reasons. 2 weeks after the story ran, Catherine received a phone call from Detective DeLuca.
We found Ruth Alder.
Where?
Tucson. She's been there since February, living under a different name. She's willing to talk.
Catherine flew to Arizona that weekend. Ruth Alder was thinner than her personnel photo, with gray in her hair that hadn't been there 6 months ago. They met in a coffee shop near the university.
I read your story. I didn't think anyone would ever put it together.
What happened that night?
They came around 2 a.m. 2 men in a white van. They had keys, they had paperwork. They went room to room and took the patients. Some of them couldn't walk, so they used wheelchairs. Some of them were unconscious. I don't know if they were sedated or...
She stopped, looking at her coffee.
I asked what was happening. One of the men said it was a transfer, showed me authorization from Dr. Whitfield. I knew it was wrong, but what was I supposed to do? Call the police? They had paperwork. They had keys.
Did you see where they took them?
No. The van drove away and I never saw any of those patients again. I reported to the morning shift that Ward 7 was empty. By noon, they were telling me it had been a scheduled consolidation. By evening, I knew that if I stayed, I'd end up like them.
Like them how?
Gone. Erased, like I never existed.
Ruth Alder's testimony filled in the final pieces. Catherine returned to Vermont and wrote a follow-up story that ran on April 5th. This one named names. Dr. Harold Whitfield, who had authorized the transfers. The 2 men Ruth Alder had described, identified through other witnesses as employees of a medical transport company that had gone out of business in December 1974. And Gerald Finch, whose photograph had been obtained from Delaware Incorporation records. A blurry image of an average-looking man that matched the description of the person who had visited Ruth Alder in Bakersfield and threatened Catherine in Burlington. The grand jury convened in May. Whitfield was indicted on 12 counts of fraud and conspiracy. The transport company employees were charged with accessory to fraud. But Gerald Finch remained at large. The photograph was circulated to law enforcement agencies across the country. Tips came in, sightings were reported. None led anywhere. And the patients of Ward 7, Eleanor Marsh, Robert Kimball, Virginia Crane, Agnes Doyle, and 10 others, were never found. Their bodies, if bodies existed, remained wherever Gerald Finch and his associates had taken them on that November night. Catherine Morse won a journalism award for her investigation. The Burlington Free Press was nominated for a Pulitzer. Tom Paulson kept the framed nomination letter on his office wall until he retired in 1982. Dr. Whitfield pleaded guilty to reduced charges and served 18 months in federal prison. The transport company employees received probation. Northeast Medical Services was dissolved by court order, its assets seized, its records subpoenaed. But the records revealed nothing about the fate of the missing patients. No manifests, no destinations, no bodies. The families who came forward, and there were a few, distant relatives who hadn't known their kin were institutionalized. received settlements from the state of Vermont. The amounts were sealed. The terms were confidential. The cases were closed. Ruth Alder eventually returned to nursing, working at a clinic in New Mexico until her retirement. Carl, the orderly who had first contacted Catherine, moved to Oregon and never spoke publicly about Briarcliff again. Detective DeLuca continued investigating leads on Gerald Finch until his retirement in 1988. He never found him. Ward 7 remained closed. The building was demolished in 1981, replaced by a parking lot. The hospital cemetery still stands, its headstones marking graves that may or may not contain the people whose names are carved into them. 14 patients vanished on the night of November 14, 1974. Their deaths were ruled administrative errors. Their lives were reduced to discrepancies in ledgers. Their names survive only in Catherine Morse's files and in the sealed records of a court that decided some truths are better left buried.